Good afternoon, viewers. Welcome to the नवशिखर चैनल. भारतीय पुनर्वास परिषद के नवशिखर चैनल के हमारे स्टूडियो से आप सबको हम बहुत हार्दिक कामनाएं दे रहे हैं and we are wishing you a very good afternoon today. आज दिल्ली में it's a very cold day, so many of you who are watching from the south might find it of interest that we are all wrapped up over here in our very warm woolens. Today's topic, as you have noted, is task analysis and teaching strategies. We have commenced on a series of teleconferences now, and we are slowly increasing more and more topics in the field of mental retardation. And we have with us in our studios today renowned expert in this field. I'd like to introduce you to them. Usha Groverji is here from the National Institute for the Mentally Handicapped, the regional center in Delhi. Usha ji, as many of you who know her and who have probably interacted with her in the past, she is a lecturer of special education here at NIMH in Delhi. She has done her post-graduation in the field of special education from the UK and done a PhD in this field also from Jamia Millia, and has considerable experience. She says she's been working from 1980, so that gives us a rich experience of almost 3 decades working in this field of special education with specific reference to children with mental retardation. And Usha ji has contributed numerous chapters. She's written a lot of papers. She's represented the country nationally and at various international forums as well in this field. So we look forward to a very interesting session with Usha leading the discussions. And we have along with Usha ji young Stuti Gaur, who is soon to become a special educator. She is completing her training currently at NIMH at Delhi, and has also over the recent past undergone this training in diploma in special education. So she will be able to share her perspective, which will be useful for many of you who are watching the program today. I'd like to now then hand you over to Usha ji, who will discuss the topic of the day, which is teaching strategies with specific reference to task analysis. Usha ji.
Thank you, Ketki ji. Now, before we go on to the subject, I would like to talk about the myths people have about teaching children with mental retardation. As you can see on the screen, people generally think it is important to keep the person with mental retardation busy, no matter what kind of activities he's engaged in. What do you think about it? I think it's just a myth. Teaching and training of people with mental retardation is as scientific as teaching any other child, and it has to be done in a systematic manner. And the second myth, what people generally think, is that all mentally handicapped children can be taught the same activity in the same manner, which again is a myth. We all know children with mental retardation, each one of them is a unique child. So we need to tailor-make the program for them. It's not that we can just plan one program and give it to the whole class. So with this introduction, I think we now move on to the teaching strategies. First, I think we'd like to talk about the task analysis, which is a methodology we use in teaching children with mental retardation. Now, as the name suggests, task analysis, it means analyzing the task. Why do we do task analysis? You may ask me this question. Well, we all know children with mental retardation, they have sub-average intelligence. So it is very difficult for them to undergo or to learn a task in one go. So what we do, we break the task into steps. We break it in a way that the task becomes so simple that the child is bound to learn. So that means breaking the task into steps, in so many steps that each step becomes so simple that it becomes easy for the child to learn. As you can see on the screen, the task analysis means breaking the task into steps and then arranging them into a sequence. Then each step should be turned into a behavioral objective, which we'll talk about later during the session. So basically, task analysis, as the name suggests, it sounds simple, but actually it is not that simple. When we do the task analysis, we have to keep many things in mind. But what do you think once I said breaking the task into steps? Now take for example, simple skill, brushing the teeth. How we can break it into steps? You may say that pick up the brush, put a paste on it, and put it in your mouth, do the brushing and then gargle and things like that. Now, it's very simple. It sounds simple, but it's not easy when we work with the children. So how do we task analyze? You may ask me. Well, think about it. How do we know what are the steps in a task? Well, there are various ways to do it. As you can see on the screen, you can observe the person who has already mastered the skill, or you just think about the skill. As I just thought, how do I wear a shirt? Think about it. What are the steps I use? Or observe a person who has already mastered the skill, or what you can do, ask somebody to do it for you and you observe him, or just film a person who has mastered the skill. Make a film on a person who has mastered the skill and then put it on a slow motion. So this is how you can make the steps. As I said, it sounds simple, but actually it is not simple. Now you may ask me that how do we divide the task into steps? Well, as I just said, you observe or you think or you see a film where a person is doing the task. But but there are so many things you have to keep in mind. If a child is mild, if he is having not very severe retardation, then the number of steps would be less. If the child is having severe retardation, the number of steps would be more, because we want to make it simple. So the underlying principle in task analysis is break the task to make it as simple as possible so that any child with any severity level is able to do it. Now, as I just said, that depending upon the task and the level, the number of steps will increase or decrease. I would now request Stuti to describe what I mean by that, taking an example of task analysis.
As ma'am just told us, that task analysis basically means dividing the entire task into small componential step, or you could say subtask, so that it just becomes easier for the child to learn that in a more easier and in a simplified way, and he could learn this entire activity or the skill behavior in a more convenient way itself. Like for instance, if we look at the slide, the example, say the activity of mixing rice and dal and then eating it with a spoon without spilling. So the same activity has been taught to two children, that is a child A that has got the low ability and child B who has got the high ability. So if you look at the child A, the same activity has been divided into 13 steps. And if you look at this child B who has got high ability, the same activity has just divided into 9 steps. And if I remember that there was a child with me that he was around 16 or 17 years old and he was at the vocational level, and I had to taught him how to prepare tea. So, and he had this mild mental retardation. So what I did was I divided the entire activity in just 5 or 6 steps, like introducing him with the basic ingredients that he would use for making tea, then choosing him the appropriate utensil in which he'll make tea, and so on like this. So what I'm trying to say here is that there is no specification of into how many steps you would divide an activity. It would always depend upon child's ability, बच्चे के limitations क्या हैं, उसके level क्या हैं, and so on. So now further on, ma'am would explain about this.
और कभी कभी ऐसा होता है कि कई बार, अब जैसा कि हमने कहा कि स्टेप्स में बांटो, पर कई बार ऐसा होता है कि एक्टिविटी हमारे पास एक है, मान लीजिए जैसे ब्रशिंग या सुती ने अभी बताया मिक्सिंग द दाल विद राइस, अगर एक बच्चे का लेवल बहुत लो है तो हो सकता है स्टेप्स 20 हो जाए, बट बाय एंड लार्ज वी डोंट गो बियॉन्ड 12 स्टेप्स. क्यों मैं ये कह रही हूँ? क्योंकि स्टेप्स अगर बहुत ज्यादा लंबे हो जाएं टू रीच द टारगेट स्किल तो बच्चा बहुत बोर हो जाएगा. जैसे कि अगर मैं आपको कहूँ कि भाई मैं आपको जो है एक गिफ्ट देने वाली हूँ, पर उसके लिए आपको पहले यहाँ से जाना पड़ेगा, फिर वहां से बस लेनी पड़ेगी, और वहां से फिर उतर के पैदल जाना पड़ेगा, और वहां से उतर के फिर आपको रिक्शा में जाना पड़ेगा. आप कहेंगे मैम प्लीज मुझे वो गिफ्ट आपका चाहिए ही नहीं. तो कहने का मतलब है कि इतने भी स्टेप्स मत बढ़ाओ कि बच्चा जो है बोर हो जाए. तो स्टेप्स जनरली 10 से 12 रखते हैं. बट या यू आर राइट, देन व्हाट डू वी डू इफ द चाइल्ड्स लेवल इज लाइक दैट? सो व्हाट वी कैन डू, you break the skill. Say for example, if it is brushing the teeth, don't do the whole thing in one go. In first objective you can just take recognition of the brush. Second you can just take rotation, the various movements in the mouth, so like you can break the task. So like that you can solve the problem. So not necessarily that if there are 30 steps in a task you have to do 30 in one go. So break the skill into steps. So that's what you can do. And the second, one more thing which is important about task analysis is that you have to record it. The one of the biggest lacuna in special education is that we do a lot of good work with our children, but we are not recording it. But we need to record not only just to see how much progress the child has made, but also to tell the parents and any service provider, whoever is associated with the child, that who the child is and what he was when he came to you and what he is now at present. So as you can see on the screen, we use the task analysis checklist. So we divide the task into steps, as Stuti has just described this skill of mixing the dal with rice in 9 steps, and we have these steps, these blocks here. So we take the level, we assess the child on these steps when he comes to you. So that is the baseline assessment, and the baseline assessment could be the child may be independent in the first step, but in the second step he may be doing that step with the physical prompt. As you can see on the screen, he serving dal from the dish over a little bit of rice in the plate. He can do it with physical prompt. So that is the second step, and the third step again with the physical prompt. So this is after 1 week. As you can see on the screen, after 1 week the child could do again with PP. He still reached the PP level, but maybe in the second week the child could go on to the GP, that is he can do the work with gestural prompt, and maybe in the 4th week he would do it with verbal prompt, and maybe by the 5th week he'll be doing it independently. Now what is GP, PP, which I'm saying, I'll be explaining this along the session, but means prompts, gestural prompts and physical prompts and verbal prompts. So this is how we have to record, and I must reiterate that you have to record whatever you are doing with the child to tell the child as well as to the service providers, whosoever is associated, what the child is at present time, what is his level. So this is what you have to do.
आप जरा यही अगर हिंदी में एक बार बता दें that this is what is the important aspect of task analysis. इसकी रिकॉर्ड रखना कितना जरूरी है और क्यों?
यस, रिकॉर्ड रखना बहुत जरूरी है, क्योंकि अक्सर ये देखा गया है कि हम सब स्पेशल एजुकेटर्स बहुत अच्छा काम करते हैं, बच्चों के साथ इतनी अच्छी अच्छी टीचिंग एड्स बना के उनके साथ काम करते हैं, उनकी प्रोग्रेस भी हमको देखने को मिलती है, एंड वी फील वेरी हैप्पी अबाउट, पर वो हम तक ही रह जाती है. जब कोई आता है तो वो कहता है भी जब ये खाना तो अभी भी नहीं खा सकता, राइट, तो आपने क्या करा इसके साथ 3 महीने में. तो हम उसको ये चेकलिस्ट दिखा सकते हैं, देखो जब ये हमारे पास आया था तो हमने इस स्किल को इतने स्टेप्स में बांटा था, और पहले वो अब स्पून से डाल भी नहीं सकता था, अपने मतलब जो दाल और चावल को स्पून में डाल भी नहीं सकता था, पर आज देखो वो स्पून में दाल डाल सकता है, पर अभी मुंह तक नहीं ले जा सकता है. So you can easily explain, and then the parents would get convinced, well, the child is learning but he's little slow. तो जो रिकॉर्ड रखना बहुत ही जरूरी हो जाता है 2 मकसद के लिए. एक तो ये कि बच्चे की प्रोग्रेस पता चल जाती है फ्रॉम टाइम टू टाइम, दूसरा ये है कि अगर वो कहीं ट्रांसफर हो, किसी और टीचर के पास जाए और जब वो घर भी जाए तो पेरेंट्स उस हिसाब से उसके साथ काम कर पाए, और सबको पता हो कि बच्चा जो है इस समय किस स्तर पर है, किस लेवल पर काम कर रहा है. तो अब हम अगली एक स्ट्रैटेजी पे चलते हैं. ये मेथोडोलॉजी है जो कि हम इस्तेमाल करते हैं बच्चों के साथ काम करने के लिए, और इसके बाद हम चलते हैं दूसरी स्ट्रैटेजी के ऊपर जिसका नाम है चेनिंग. अब इस जैसे कि नेम सजेस्ट कर रहा है कि चेनिंग में हम टास्क को डिवाइड करते हैं स्टेप्स में ही, जैसा कि मैंने पहले बताया, और उसको पर उसमें ये है कि हम स्टेप्स में इस तरह से बांधते हैं कि सारे स्टेप्स जो है एक दूसरे के साथ चेन्ड हैं. और कहने का मतलब कि जैसे पहला स्टेप और दूसरे स्टेप में दूसरा स्टेप पहले के साथ चेन्ड होगा. इसको मैं समझाने के लिए मैं आप चाहती हूं कि हम एक डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन दें, और मैं स्तुति को चाहूंगी कि वो जरा मेरे साथ हेल्प करे और मैं उसको डेमोन्स्ट्रेट करूं कि चेनिंग का प्रोसेस हम कैसे करते हैं. जैसा कि आपने सीखा होगा कि एक प्रिंसिपल है, साथ साथ जब हम टीचिंग स्ट्रैटेजीज की बात कर रहे हैं हम ये भी करेंगे कि प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ टीचिंग भी करेंगे कि हमको जो है हमेशा एक्टिविटी वो करनी चाहिए जो आसान हो बच्चे के लिए. तो आप बताइए कि उतारना आसान होता है कि पहनना आसान होता है? डेफिनेटली उतारना ज्यादा आसान होता है.
yes.
तो अगर हम ये मान लीजिए स्तुति को ये मुझे सिखाना है कि सॉक्स को उतारना कैसे है, तो मैं किस तरह से इसको स्टेप्स में बांध सकती हूँ? तो एक तरीका तो ये है, पहला स्टेप ये है कि मैं इसको यहाँ से पकड़ूं और स्तुति को पकड़वाऊं, तो स्तुति यहाँ से पकड़ेगी. और दूसरा स्टेप क्या है कि मैं रोल करके यहाँ तक इसके हील तक ले आऊं. That means this is the second step. I'm just demonstrating the steps. This is the second step. तो स्तुति को मैं कहूंगी अब दूसरा स्टेप. जब दूसरा स्टेप करा तो फर्स्ट स्टेप प्लस दूसरा स्टेप हुआ, राइट? एंड नाउ द थर्ड स्टेप इज, फिर से पहना उतारना है, 1 + 2 and over the heel. This is the third step, right? Now the fourth step is एक स्टेप, 2 स्टेप, 3 स्टेप और ये चौथा स्टेप. दिस इज द फोर्थ स्टेप. तो ये क्या हुआ? चेनिंग क्यों हुआ? क्योंकि एक स्टेप दूसरे से चेन्ड है, जुड़ा हुआ है. और अब मैं इसको जो है दूसरी तरह भी कर सकती हूँ, जिस तरह की देखिए, मान लीजिए मैं आपको बता रही हूँ और आप मुझे बताएंगे आपको कौन सा तरीका ज्यादा अच्छा लग रहा है. कि अब मैंने सॉक्स यहाँ तक उतार दी, ये स्टेप पहला है, और मैं स्तुति को बोलूं स्तुति उतारो, ये पहला स्टेप है, राइट? और दूसरा स्टेप क्या है कि मैं इसको जो है यहां तक उतारूं और स्तुति को बोलूं कि अब यहां से उतारो. और तीसरा स्टेप क्या है कि स्तुति ने पहनी हुई है और मैं यहां तक उतार दूं, और लास्ट स्टेप प्लस द थर्ड स्टेप एंड दिस स्टेप, तो चेन्ड है. समझ रहे? तो मैंने क्या किया, पहली बारी में तो मैंने पहला स्टेप क्या किया, पहले किया, यहां से यहां तक लेकर आई. दूसरे स्टेप में ये प्लस ये, तीसरे स्टेप में ये प्लस ये, और चौथे स्टेप में पूरा निकल गया. और दूसरे तरीके में मैंने क्या किया कि लास्ट का स्टेप मैंने पहले करा, मैंने लास्ट स्टेप स्तुति को पहले करवाया, यहां तक मैंने स्तुति की हेल्प कर दी उतारने में, और स्तुति ने सिर्फ लास्ट का स्टेप करा. और अगली बारी लास्ट स्टेप प्लस थर्ड स्टेप, और अगली बारी लास्ट प्लस थर्ड एंड देन सेकेंड. तो सारे स्टेप चेंज हैं. क्या मैं ये चौथा स्टेप थर्ड के बिना कर सकती थी? नहीं कर सकती थी. तो इसलिए इसको चेनिंग का नाम दिया गया है, क्योंकि ये स्टेप्स जो है आपस में जुड़े हुए हैं. तो अब हम चलते हैं और अगली स्ट्रैटेजीज पे चलते हैं और हम थोड़ा सा डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन देते हैं. तो चेनिंग इस तरह से आपने देखा कि फॉरवर्ड होती है, जिसमें कि हमने पहला स्टेप पहले किया और फिर दूसरा स्टेप चेन्ड विद द फर्स्ट वन, एंड थर्ड स्टेप चेन्ड विद द फर्स्ट +2 + थर्ड, एंड द फोर्थ स्टेप इज 1 + 2 + 3 + 4 as you have just seen. So that is why it is called chaining, because the steps are chained, they are connected,
are linked to each other in a sense.
Yes, that's true. You can't do the third step without doing the second step or the first step. But what do you think? Which method did you like better, forward or backward?
What are the advantages of, say, forward over backward? I mean, how?
Yeah, see, backward में हमने last step पहले किया था. See, you would have seen young children, you've seen mothers doing when they want to teach them, wear your pant or a knicker. They just put the knicker till the hips and they say, pull it yourself. You must have seen that. So that's what they are doing, backward chaining. So,
I see.
yeah. So, अगली बारी क्या है? They put the knicker only till the knees. And they tell the child कि अपने आप पहनो. और जब बच्चा टेन हो जाता है तो सिर्फ पैर ठीक डाल देते हैं और बच्चा अपने आप ऊपर डाल लेता है. तो that you would have seen, everybody would have seen. So what do you think? Which chaining is better? I know definitely you will say backward chaining is better. Why? Because the child is doing just one step at a time, but he feels that he has done the whole task. So there is an inbuilt reward in it. And that is
a
why,
sense of achievement.
yeah, that's right. The child feels he has done the whole task, although he has done just one step at a time.
Okay.
So that is why we prefer backward chaining to teach all the skills. So Stuti can give some more demonstration about chaining, or Stuti can tell, or maybe I can tell you some more, that whatever you teach, like you making a tea or making a sandwich. In fact, I want to ask you all, just while we are talking about these strategies, think, what are the skills I can teach better with this strategy? So just think while we are going on. You can think about it, and I may discuss after the session. So the next thing is, now say for example, we talked about dressing skills, undressing skills. Now there is a needle here, okay? I've talked about chaining. So how do I teach this? Threading the needle. You may say, ma'am, you have just said with chaining. So what do? Bring it here, first step, bring the thread to with the second hand and pull it in.
Close to the eye of the
Close to
needle.
the eye. Can we do that? Well, I wish our children could do that. They would have reached much higher. But don't forget, our children have sub-average intelligence. So I don't think they can do this task like this. Right? So we have to make it simple. How we can make it simple?
By making, perhaps using a thicker twine and a fatter needle to start with, maybe?
Very good, yeah. So this is, yeah. So first, if I make the child, same skill. If I make the child, thread the bead like this with a thicker thread, this is easier because the hole is so big,
And
right?
the thread is thicker.
Thread
easier
is
to
thicker.
hold.
Yeah. And then gradually go on to, we could have taken even a thicker, bead with a maybe 1 inch diameter. And if the child is having problem, then go on to the needle, which is again not a regular sewing needle, and then use a thread which is little thin than this, but not the usual sewing thread. That I don't have right now, but you can use that, and then go on to the regular needle like this. And if you think the child is still having a problem, you can use something with the hole and the child has to just put a string in it. So what are we doing in this? Is it chaining? Can I do this step without doing this?
No, ma'am.
I can.
But then it would be,
Yeah.
it would be easier for the child.
Right? I can. It's not that to do this I have to do this. You getting my point? So here we are dividing the task into steps in a way that each step is a successive approximation of the target skill. कहने का मतलब ये कि जो steps हैं वो लगभग वैसे ही हैं जैसा कि target skill है. But in each step the equipment, the apparatus, the material
Teaching
is
learning
changed.
material that you use.
That is different.
Okay.
That is different.
It's
That-
different from what?
the first step.
Okay.
Right? And each step is reinforced. So that is giving reward after every each step. So here the steps are not chained, but they have been shaped. That is why this has been given, this strategy has been given the name shaping. So this is a strategy, as you can see on the board, that shaping is achieved through a series of steps which represent successive approximation of target skill and which are reinforced. You can see on the screen, and the example is being given there. So think while we are going on this topic, what are the skills we can teach better with shaping? It's like, जैसे वो कुम्हार शेप करता है मड को लेके, it's like that. वहां से ये वर्ड बना है कि भाई धीरे धीरे आप मड का तो ढेला ही है आपके पास, उसको शेप करते करते कोई सा भी आप आकार बना सकते हैं. तो वो है. तो शेपिंग जो है हम जनरली स्पीकिंग, दिस नो हार्ड एंड फास्ट रूल, बट जनरली स्पीकिंग हम जैसे चेनिंग जो है ड्रेसिंग स्किल्स, मोटर स्किल्स में इस्तेमाल करते हैं, और शेपिंग जो है जनरली हम यूज करते हैं बहुत सारी स्किल्स में. जैसे अभी स्तुति बताएगी कि शेपिंग कैसे हम यूज करते हैं. जैसे मान लीजिए स्तुति बताएगी इसने कैसे बच्चे के साथ किया था.
Alright, so I'll explain this teaching strategy named shaping through this example that I had experienced with my child few days back. What I did was I asked my child to put this ball in this bucket.
पहले बताओ उसका ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या था.
Alright, so the main objective was that I wanted my child to put this ball in this bucket at a specific distance. So what I did, I started it with the child who's quite near with the bucket itself. That is, the distance was not far enough. So I'll explain it like this, that my child was supposedly standing like this, and I asked my child to hold this ball and put it inside the bucket. So what he did was he put up this ball and then he did it like this. I repeated this step for about 2 or 3 times. Then what I did was I increased the distance. Like I asked my child to stand like
further
this.
away.
Yeah, further away. So then he'll hold the ball and put it in the bucket like this. He'll repeat this step for about 2 or 3 times. Then at the 3rd step, I ask the child to stand at a more of distance. Suppose it like this. Now I'll ask him to hold the ball and put it inside the bucket. So he'll hold like ball and then put it like this. So my main objective was like this, but to make it more simpler, I asked my child to put the ball inside the bucket at a shorter distance. Then I increased it and so on. Then there's another example also.
वेरी गुड. इससे पहले कि स्तुति आपको दूसरा एग्जाम्पल बताए, इसमें आप अगर बच्चा का आपका ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है उस पर डिपेंड करता है. तो आप इसमें बड़ी बकेट भी ले सकते थे, बड़ी बॉल भी ले सकते थे, और धीरे धीरे बॉल छोटी करते जाओ और बकेट छोटी करते जाओ. सो डिपेंडिंग अपॉन कि आपका बच्चे का लेवल क्या है, आप जो है शेपिंग का यूज कर सकते हो. और जरूरी नहीं है शेपिंग सिर्फ इसी काम के लिए, हर स्किल में आप यूज कर सकते हो. जैसे कि आर्ट में भी.
Definitely, ma'am.
I'd just like to interrupt once to tell the viewers who are watching the program, आप उषा जी और स्तुति जी के साथ डायरेक्टली आप इंटरैक्ट कर सकते हैं. प्लीज feel free to call in and ask any questions, because this is a very important aspect of teaching special education for children with
it's the heart of special education.
In fact, as you said, it's the heart of special education. स्टूडियोज, हमारे RCI स्टूडियो के फ़ोन नंबर्स आपके टेलीविजन स्क्रीन पे स्क्रॉल किए जा रहे हैं, बट आई वुड जस्ट लाइक टू रिपीट देम फॉर दोज who might like to note it down. Our studio telephone numbers are 265111611 and 265111613. You can call and Usha ji and Stuti will answer your questions directly. You can also fax us at 265111609. So please think about it, and as they are asking and demonstrating these various very important aspects of chaining and shaping and other elements of the teaching strategies for children with MR, please do think about calling and asking them questions also. You can go on now.
Alright, as ma'am just told us कि शेपिंग इज अ टीचिंग स्ट्रैटेजी जिसको कि आप आर्ट एंड क्राफ्ट में भी बहुत ज़्यादा इफेक्टिवली यूज कर सकते हो. फॉर इंस्टेंस, आई हैड दिस चाइल्ड विद मी and I performed this activity with him. That is, it's a sun with the matchsticks placed all over the worksheet as the sun rays. So at the first step, to shape his behavior like this, what I did, I provided him a worksheet like this, where a bangle has been pasted and my child was asked to color inside it. So it just became easier for the child because the boundary was already being there in the form of this bangle, so he easily colored inside it. Then to shape his behavior at the next step, what I did was I provided him a worksheet like this, where a bangle was already there, but I put it sun rays in the form of these matchsticks. so that by the time बच्चे के लिए थोड़ा complex भी हो जाए and simple भी हो जाए, because bangle was already there. And then at the finally third step, I removed this bangle and he was asked to color inside it. So although my main objective was to achieve at the level like this, I provided him steps like this, then at the next step like this, just to shape his behavior, ताकि बच्चा हमारा इस वाली एक्टिविटी को इफेक्टिवली और मोर एफिशिएंटली परफॉर्म कर पाए. सो चेनिंग का जो मेन ऑब्जेक्टिव वो यही है, दैट जस्ट टू शेप हिज बिहेवियर, ताकि बच्चा एक ऑप्टिमम लेवल ऑफ फंक्शनिंग को एंड में अचीव कर सके.
या इसी तरह कोई भी स्किल हो, जैसे बच्चे को अगर आप चाहते हो कि बच्चा आपकी तरफ देख नहीं रहा है, यू वांट हिम टू लुक एट यू, सो यू रिवॉर्ड हिम व्हेन ही इज लुकिंग एट योर साइड, इवन इफ यू नॉट ऑन योर इन योर आईज बट टुवर्ड्स योर साइड. सो रिवॉर्ड हिम. सो व्हेन ही स्टार्ट्स लुकिंग एट योर फेस, रिवॉर्ड हिम. सो फाइनली ही वुड लुक इनटू योर आईज एंड देन रिवॉर्ड हिम. सो दिस इज द ब्रेकिंग. एंड another thing, like for language development, if you want the child to say mama or papa, even if the child is saying ma, so you just reward him. So, and then mom, and then mama, so like that. So successive approximation should be rewarded. So basically the process of shaping involves a system of giving rewards in a step, as you can see on the screen, by step fashion, even to minor but correct approximation of behavior towards a behavioral objective. Now we again I request that think of the skills which can be taught through shaping, and we may ask towards the end of the session. The next strategy I would like to demonstrate is errorless discrimination learning, which is on the screen again. And as the name suggests, here we try to avoid the error by the child. So in other words, prevent failure. Give him the opportunity to be successful. So that means breaking the task into steps in such a way that the child can never fail. Now how do we do that? Right? So it is up to you. We generally say, no, बच्चे ने नहीं किया तो मैं क्या करूं? आपने बच्चे को वैसे कराया ही नहीं. It's up to you to make the child successful or to make him fail. So in this strategy we say avoid failure. Give him the chances, let him feel the success. As it is, they have such low self-esteem. So if we keep them experiencing failure, I think their self-esteem will go further down. So we have to give them all successful opportunities and successful interactions. Now, yeah. So say for example, I want to teach. Now this is, so far we had been doing cognitive, dressing skills and motor skills and art and craft skills. Let us now talk about cognitive skills. Now if I want to teach a concept, it could be a concept of red or any shape concept, or bada chota, or reading his own address or his phone number, whatever is functional for him, whatever is appropriate for him to learn. How do we teach? Now I'll take this simple example. If I want to teach, this is red, how do we do it? Generally we teach the children, this is red, this is green, this is blue. See, I'm wearing a red cardigan and ma'am is wearing a red sweater. So like that I can teach, and then ask a child, what is this? But that's not like that with our children, because they learn slow, and their concentration is very less, and they can attend to a task for a very short time, and they forget also very fast. So whenever we teach cognitive skills, we break it into steps. First is matching, and then identification, and then naming. So if I want to do matching first, that further will be divided into steps. Say for example, I want to teach red, so I will say, I think you all can see, if I want to teach matching, I will simply say, the first step would be, just watch my steps. First step would be, Stuti is my child and give me like this, aisa do, and Stuti has given me. So was there any scope for failure? Watch my steps very carefully and let me know what I am doing. Now this is the first step. The second step is this. Present this like this to a child and say, Stuti, give me like this. Very good, well done. Okay, this is the second step. And the third step is, Now, give me like this. Well done, very good. So this is just matching. And what am I doing? I will ask you, what am I doing in the steps? Now, after Stuti has given me this, the second step is for identification, second stage I mean, this is red, ye lal hai. Okay, now the fourth step would be, give me red. And Stuti has given me, very good. So what am I doing? Okay, now give me red. Very good. Now give me red. Give me red, 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 red. Very good. What have I done? Well, I've simply broken the task into steps, as you could see, simple to complex. But what I've done, I have gradually increased the number of steps. See, first it was number of stimuli. First it was just this. Second step it was 2. Third step it was 3. And maybe the fourth could have similar colors like red, like orange, pink, like colors, and gradually increase the strength also, so that the child is able to discriminate. That is the idea. So, but I am avoiding error. So, I am gradually increasing the difficulty level so that there is no scope for the child to make error. But even if, besides all this, the child is trying to make an error, as Stuti just did, I gave prompts. Immediately, before she could make an error, I said this. So, I brought the first step again. And I said this, and I made her pick up this. So I didn't let her fail. But what we generally do, if she had picked up this, I would have said, wrong, wrong. Think of, no, you're not supposed to say that. Don't tell him you're wrong. The child will be totally demotivated. And he will think, oh, I can't do anything. As it is, they think I can't do anything. So provide him the chance, the experience of success rather than failure. That is the bottom line principle of this strategy. So this is the example I have shown. Identification of red in one choice, identification of red in two choice, identification of red in multiple choice, right? But we can start with matching, as I just said, and the last stage is naming. What is this? And the child will say this is red. So this is how we do it. I'm going a little fast, but we can use many more examples. So any concept can be taught through this strategy. And this is very, very effective, we have seen with our children. So I would request Stuti to take another example of whatever you want to show them, and which can be taught by EDL method.
Right, so the same strategy, that is error discrimination learning, can be effectively used for identification of the name of the child itself. Suppose मान लीजिए मेरे बच्चे का नाम मोहन है. So what I'll do, I prepared these kind of flashcards and I provided him a flashcard like this on which Mohan has been written, and I'll hold another flashcard and I will hold another flashcard in which Mohan again has been written. So I'll ask him, suppose मान लीजिए,
you're missing that card here. Doesn't matter.
Anyways,
there's a card
flashcard on which Mohan has been written. So what I'll do, I'll ask my child, बेटा मुझे ऐसा वाला उठा के दो. So he'll pick up this card and give it to me. Then at the next step, at this step, I just provided him one choice situation. At the next step, I could provide him two choice situation. Like I provided him flashcard of Mohan along with the flashcard on which Neeraj has been written. Now I'll again ask my child, मुझे ऐसा वाला उठा के दो. That is Mohan. So he'll pick up this card and give it to me. In the third step, I'll provide him in multiple choice situation. Say Mohan, Neeraj and Mahesh. Now I'll ask him, मुझे ऐसा वाला उठा के दो. He'll again finally pick up the card and give it to me on which Mohan has been written. Now so that was the matching stage. Now he comes to the identification stage. Under this stage, I'll tell him, देखो ये मोहन है, ये मोहन लिखा है.
Verbalize.
Yeah, we're verbalizing it and इसके साथ साथ मैं बच्चे को एक प्रॉम्प्ट दे सकती हूँ. फॉर इंस्टेंस मान लीजिए बच्चे का मैंने फोटोग्राफ इसके साथ अटैच कर दिया, सो दैट आई कुड एक्सप्लेन हिम इन अ मोर इजियर वे कि ये देखो ये मोहन है और ये तुम हो, ये तुम्हारा नाम है. So I could do it in this way. I'm just giving an example like this. So that was a part of the identification stage. At the next one, I'll provide him a card on which Mohan has been written, and I'll hold no flashcard in my hand. So I'll simply say, "Beta, mujhe Mohan wala card utha ke do." So he'll pick up the card and finally give it to me. At the next step, I'll provide him two choice situation. Now I'll say, "Mujhe Mohan utha ke do." He'll pick up the card and give it to me. Then I could repeat the same step in say multiple choice situation. So that was the identification stage. So finally we come down to naming stage, where I will simply say, "Mujhe Mohan wala card utha ke do." So he'll simply pick up the card and give it to me itself. So that's all about EDL, where हम बच्चे को opportunity नहीं देते हैं कि वो error को आकर कर सके. We're gradually fading it so that he could get motivated. अपने skill behavior की तरफ वो ज़्यादा initiative ले, ज़्यादा actively काम करे, और उसका जो attitude है वो positive हो जाए towards the skill behavior कि नहीं, मैं इस skill को learn कर सकता हूँ. So that is the main motive behind this teaching strategies, all I could say.
अब आप सोच रहे होंगे कि सारी स्किल्स जो हम एकेडमिक स्किल्स सो टू से जो सिखाते हैं, टाइम पढ़ना और आइडेंटिफिकेशन ऑफ वेरियस कॉइन्स, उनकी वैल्यू, उनका ट्रांजैक्शन, पोस्ट ऑफिस की चीजें, और any skill you take from your academic subject, you can teach through this method. How? Just think about it. Just take any example. कोई सा भी, से फॉर एग्जाम्पल आप पार्ट्स ऑफ द प्लांट ले रहे हो, आप कहोगे मैम ऐसे सब्जेक्ट तुम नहीं पढ़ा सकते, पर कैसे नहीं पढ़ा सकते? पार्ट्स ऑफ द बॉडी, सोचिए, लेटर्स क ख ग ए बी सी डी, नंबर सिंबल की पहचान एंड मीनिंगफुल काउंटिंग कैसे सिखाएंगे? सारे ईडीएल के थ्रू सिखाएंगे, राइट? पर ये स्ट्रैटेजीज जो है पढ़ने में, समझने में, पेपर देने में बहुत आसान लगती है, पर जब बच्चों को सिखाना पड़ता है तो इन पे काफी डीप काम होता है, क्योंकि वो टेलर मेड है बच्चे के साथ, राइट? तो इसी तरह से जैसे कि मैंने बताया, आप नंबर की पहचान सिखाना चाहते हैं तो कैसे करेंगे? तो क्या स्टेप्स बनाएंगे आप? टास्क एनालिसिस कैसे करेंगे? आप जरा सोचिए. से फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैं देती हूँ आपको आइडेंटिफिकेशन ऑफ नंबर सिंबल 5. सो व्हाट आर द स्टेप्स? विल ब्रेक इट इनटू, do it while we are doing this session, right? So next we go on to the modeling technique, which as the name suggests, modeling, you know, हमारे बच्चे जो हैं they learn a lot through modeling, through imitation, so through demonstration, you know. तो आप कोई भी चीज अगर आप बच्चों को सिखाना चाहते हैं तो आप कुछ चीजें ऐसी हैं जो मॉडल के थ्रू ज्यादा अच्छा सिखा सकते हैं. सोचिए जरा कैसे. अगर देखिए मैं अब सवाल सिखाऊं मॉडल की तरह तो नहीं सीख पाएंगे, राइट? अगर मैं ब्रश खुद कर रही हूं, चेनिंग भी यूज करूं और खुद भी करूं, तो आप सोचते हैं आप ज्यादा अच्छा सीख पाओगे? यस, यू आर राइट.
एक्चुअली डेमोन्स्ट्रेट करके दिखाना,
राइट. तो उससे बच्चा देख रहा है कि हम क्या चाहते हैं उससे, कौन सा व्यवहार चाहते हैं, तो इसलिए ज्यादा इफेक्टिव हो जाता है. और जैसे कि हम बच्चे को चाहते हैं कि भाई नमस्ते कैसे करते हैं, अब मैं अगर चेनिंग का मेथड यूज करूं तो कहूं पहले पहला हाथ लाओ, फिर दूसरा हाथ लाओ और उसको बराबर करो, यू नो, साउंड वेरी वियर्ड. तो बेस्ट इज नमस्ते ऐसे करते हैं, यू नो, टाटा ऐसे करते हैं, ब्रश ऐसे करते हैं, चपाती ऐसे बनाते हैं. तो कहने का मतलब यह है कि देयर आर मेनी स्किल्स विच आर टॉट वेल थ्रू मॉडलिंग. यू नो, किसी को भी आप मॉडल मान सकते हैं, किसी को भी मॉडल, मतलब जैसे मेरा मॉडल हो सकता है कोई स्टार हो, मेरा मॉडल कोई हो सकता है मेरा बहुत अच्छा बॉस हो, मेरा मॉडल, तुम्हारा स्तुति का कोई मॉडल हो सकता है कोई टीचर हो. तो इसी तरह बच्चों के टीचर्स मॉडल बन जाते हैं, स्टार मॉडल बन जाते हैं. तो जो भी व्यवहार हम सोचते हैं कि हमारे बच्चे को सीखना है उस मॉडल में है, तो हम उसको उस तरह की मॉडलिंग करा सकते हैं. तो कहने का मतलब ये है कि your peers could be model. Suti, you have an experience on this modeling very well,
Yes,
I think.
ma'am,
Yeah.
I do have this. As ma'am just said, that modeling is a teaching strategy that can be effectively used for teaching an activity or a skill behavior to the child itself. Then further on, modeling could be divided into three main parts. Like for instance, if I take about peer modeling, in the peer modeling, what we do is we take a classmate of a child himself, or a child itself who's almost of the affected person. We'll take him as a model, and we'll demonstrate the behavior along with this peer model, so that the affected person could observe it and learns it, or you could say imbibe it. Then nextly it could be teacher modeling. Suppose I am the teacher and I'm teaching a certain activity to my child, so myself could act as a model itself, so that he could imitate my skill, behavior or my behavior. Then nextly it would be external person. जैसे कि अगर हम बेस्ट एग्जाम्पल लें, so usually people what they do is to advertise their product. आजकल लोग अपने politicians को या they using film stars as their model, बिकॉज दे नो कि उनका जो इन्फ्लुएंस है जनरल पब्लिक पे वो बहुत ज़्यादा है. तो यूजुअली यही होता है कि अगर इफ़ वी लाइक अ पर्सन और लॉट, वी जस्ट ट्राई टू गेट इन्फ्लुएंस बाय देम. हम कोशिश करते हैं कि हम उनके बिहेवियर से इन्फ्लुएंस हो एंड देन उसको इम्बाइब कर सके. सो दिस इज समथिंग व्हाट इज एक्सटर्नल मॉडलिंग इज ऑल अबाउट.
तो टीचर्स के लिए तो ये बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट बात है. अगर हम बच्चों को कुछ भी सिखाना चाहते हैं तो पहले हमें अपने में इम्बाइब करना पड़ेगा. अगर मैं चाहती हूँ कि बच्चे सच बोले तो मुझे सच बोलना पड़ेगा, राइट?
We have to be in a position to demonstrate that we what exactly or show that
a good model,
good behavior.
That's true. That's true.
We want the child to follow or learn.
Exactly. And as you can see on the screen, you see modeling की कुछ जब आप यूज कर रहे हैं तो आपको ये सब बातों का ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा कि जब भी आप चाहते हैं कि बच्चा मॉडलिंग से सीखे तो क्रिएट अ सिचुएशन इन विच द चाइल्ड नेचुरली ऑब्जर्व्स अदर चिल्ड्रन इंडल्जिंग इन टारगेट बिहेवियर. तो कहने का मतलब सिचुएशंस क्रिएट करो. कहने का मतलब कि अगर आप बच्चे को सिखाना चाहते हैं कि भाई अगर कोई आपको कुछ देता है तो थैंक यू बोलना चाहिए, और अगर आप किसी से कुछ मांगते हो तो प्लीज कहना चाहिए. तो आप सिर्फ ये कहने से नहीं होगा कि आप थैंक यू बोलो या प्लीज ये बोलो, एक्सक्यूज मी बोलो. एक सिचुएशन क्रिएट करो क्लास में. हो सकता है बर्थडे का सिचुएशन क्रिएट करें, टीचर को वो क्रिएट करना पड़ेगा जिसमें कि आप चीजें दे रहे हैं, ले रहे हैं और उसमें आप ये वर्ड्स यूज कर रहे हैं और बच्चा ये फॉलो कर रहा है, एज वहां से पिकअप कर दूसरों को देख के वो कर रहा है. और दूसरी बात ये है रिवॉर्ड फॉर दैट बिहेवियर. वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. इफ यू वांट कि अगर बच्चा वो व्यवहार बारी बारी करे जो आप चाहते हो कि वो करे तो आपको उसको रिवॉर्ड देना बहुत जरूरी है. और तीसरी बात हम अक्सर जो कहते हैं, देख वो कैसे कर रहा है, तू उसको देख के नहीं कर सकता. हाँ, वो कितना अच्छा कर रहा है और तू क्यों नहीं करता. दैट्स नॉट मॉडलिंग. Okay, so never compare two children. As I put it on the screen, teachers को कभी ये कहना कि वो इतने अच्छा नंबर लाता तो तू भी ला, that's not part of modeling. तो वो तो हम और गड़बड़ कर रहे हैं और बच्चे को नीचे, राइट. तो वो बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है कि आप कंपेयर नहीं करिए जब आप मॉडलिंग करवा रहे हैं. तो दिखाइए व्यवहार जो आप बच्चे को चाहते हैं, वो अपने आप इमिटेट कर लेगा.
और एक बात आप यहाँ would you like to clarify, ये जो रिवॉर्ड आप कह रहे हैं,
हाँ जी,
वो किस तरह का रिवॉर्ड होना चाहिए? और हर बार हम एक स्वीट या टॉफी या कुछ उसकी पसंद की चीज दे, या कैन इट बी अ सिंपल थिंग लाइक सेइंग शाबाश और वेल डन और समथिंग? हाउ डज
कीर्ति जी, आपने बहुत अच्छा सवाल पूछा है, पर शायद इसके लिए एक अलग कॉन्फ्रेंस करनी पड़ेगी आपको. क्योंकि रिवॉर्ड इतना सिंपल नहीं है जैसा कि अभी आपने कहा कि शाबाश दे दी या हक कर दिया. जनरली हम कहते हैं मैंने शाबाश दे दी तो वो रिवॉर्डिंग ही है. मेरे को शाबाश इज नो वैल्यू फॉर मी अनलेस यू गिव अ पैट ऑन माई बैक. सो दैट्स द रिवॉर्ड फॉर मी. तो इसकी भी पूरी टेक्निक है. असेस अ चाइल्ड फॉर द रिवॉर्ड. कौन से रिवॉर्ड, क्या रिवॉर्डिंग है उसके लिए. आपको हक पसंद होगी, मुझे हक नहीं पसंद. आपको चॉकलेट पसंद होगी, मुझे चॉकलेट नहीं पसंद. तो इस तरह से किसी को क्या पसंद है, तो असेसमेंट फॉर रिवॉर्ड वो बड़ा जरूरी है. उसके बाद रिवॉर्ड, जैसा कि आपने बताया, तरीके हैं. पहले हम शुरू में हर बार बच्चा जब व्यवहार करता है रिवॉर्ड देते हैं. पर एक बात मैं इस समय जरूर कहनी चाहूंगी, कोई भी चीज जो हम इस्तेमाल करते हैं, चाहे वो रिवॉर्ड हो चाहे वो प्रॉम्प्ट हो, जो हम बच्चे को असिस्ट करने के लिए देते हैं, उसको व्यवहार सिखाने के लिए यूज करते हैं, दैट ग्रेजुअली हैज टू बी फेडेड. तो इसलिए आपने देखा होगा कि प्रॉम्प्टिंग के साथ फेडिंग हमेशा इस्तेमाल करते हैं हम, और रिवॉर्ड्स इवेंचुअली हैव टू बी फेडेड. अदरवाइज बच्चा तो सिर्फ रिवॉर्ड के लिए काम करेगा.
Yeah,
right?
The child will get just used to it.
Exactly.
Or he might just perform it कि उसे पता है मुझे ये reward मिलेगा.
Yeah.
So it has to be faded as soon as possible.
As soon as
after
possible.
the specific period of time.
Very good. And जैसा कीर्ति जी आपने कहा कि एक शाबाशी रिवॉर्ड है, टाइप्स ऑफ रिवॉर्ड्स हैं, कुछ टेंजिबल रिवॉर्ड्स होते हैं, आपने कोई चीज दे दी, कोई एक सिर्फ शाबाश कह दिया, कोई एक्टिविटी रिवॉर्ड्स होते हैं कि टीवी दिखा दिया, साइकिल चलवा दी, या कुछ होते हैं टोकन सिस्टम है रिवॉर्ड्स का, तभी मैंने कहा इसके लिए तो अलग से
अलग
कर
से
देंगे आप।
we will
तो
discuss
टोकन बहुत अच्छे हम यूज करते हैं अपने बच्चों के साथ, तो हर बारी रिवॉर्ड नहीं देते, टोकन दे देते हैं, जब इतने टोकन हुए तो फिर उनको ये मिलेगा, तो लाइक दैट. But it's very very important to understand how this methodology works.
Okay.
Yeah. तो आगे चलते हैं. Then as I just said कि बहुत सारी स्ट्रैटेजीज हमने करी हैं. हमने चेनिंग पढ़ा, हमने मॉडलिंग पढ़ा, हमने शेपिंग पढ़ा, और हमने और क्या पढ़ा, एरर डिस्क्रिमिनेशन पढ़ा, या मॉडलिंग पढ़ा. यस. तो ये जो स्ट्रैटेजीज हैं, जरूरी नहीं है कि एट ए टाइम हम एक ही स्ट्रैटेजी यूज करते हैं. वी डू यूज कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ स्ट्रैटेजीज, और आपने देखा कि उन स्ट्रैटेजीज के साथ साथ हम प्रॉम्प्टिंग भी यूज करते हैं, राइट. जब अगर बच्चा नहीं कर पा रहा तो हम उसको प्रॉम्प्ट्स देते हैं, जैसा कि स्क्रीन पर है. प्रॉम्प्टिंग एंड फेडिंग भी साथ होना चाहिए. जैसा कि मैंने कहा, अगर हम प्रॉम्प्ट देते हैं तो साथ साथ फेड भी करना है, तो फेडिंग गोज विद प्रॉम्प्टिंग. तो प्रॉम्प्टिंग क्या है? इट इज अ प्रोसीजर ऑफ गिविंग एक्टिव असिस्टेंस टू हेल्प चिल्ड्रन टू लर्न अ स्पेसिफिक टारगेट बिहेवियर इज कॉल्ड प्रॉम्प्टिंग. तो प्रॉम्प्टिंग जो है वो 3 तरह की होती है. First is physical prompts, as the name suggests, giving physical assistance to the child, कि आप उसको होल्ड करिए और आप उसको असिस्टेंस दीजिए. सेकेंड है वर्बल प्रॉम्प्ट, कि आप कह के, जैसे कि आप कहते हैं कि बोल टमाटर, एंड यू सिंपली से like that. So you're giving him a verbal prompt and the child says tomato. And the next is gestural prompt or cluing. You just give hints, right? So you just give hints, and sometimes you just do some kind of gestures, point towards something. तो इस तरह की हम यूज करते हैं. पर सबसे पहले हम फिजिकल प्रॉम्प्ट्स देते हैं. जब वो फेड हो जाती है तो क्लूइंग करते हैं, और क्लूइंग जब फेड हो जाती है तो हम उसको वर्बल को फेड करते हैं. तो लास्ट जो है वर्बल प्रॉम्प्ट जो है, उससे हम फेड करते हैं, उसको हम फेड करते हैं. और जैसा कि मैंने स्क्रीन पे बताया है कि प्रॉम्प्टिंग इज यूज्ड विद अदर टेक्निक्स like we have just discussed, and combine various types of prompts to get maximum effectiveness in teaching, and fade prompts as soon as possible. This is very very important. But sometimes it so happens that some children work with prompts only because of their severity level, so that's fine, but we try as much as possible to fade the prompts. Yeah. Now we talked about prompting and fading, but there is a technique, independent technique, which is called fading as well, which is called fading of visual cues. Now, as the name suggests, here we provide the visual cues, and gradually we are decreasing and finally we fade the visual cues. Now, which are the skills which are used? I mean, in which we use fading? Can you think about it? Yeah, you've already seen on the screen, and this skill, this technique is used for, yes, you're right, for writing skills. See, if for example I want a child to draw a line. Now, what I'll do, I will give him visual cues. Now, as for the cognitive skills, there were 3 stages. What are these 3 stages we just discussed? Yeah, you're right. We discussed about matching, and then identification, and then naming. Similarly, for writing skills, we have 3 stages as well. First is tracing, which comes after scribbling, and second is writing with a model, which is copying, and the last is writing without a model, that is writing independently. So I have taken an example here of drawing a line, copying, so when we do this, if that is the objective we have taken with the child, and how do I divide this task? I will break this task like this. In the first step, I will have 2 dots, and the child will have to make a line between these dots. So we have given dots in between. Here you can see small lines. The child has to join these lines to make a straight line, right? And the second step, we have the number of lines have been reduced, right? In the third step, they have been further reduced. In the fourth step, the child has to now just 2 dots and the child has to draw a line. Can you see that? So like that, we have made the job of drawing a line very simple. So these are the visual clues given. Gradually they have been faded to none and the child is able to write. Yes? Yeah. So
Very
this,
interesting, and it's a technique that you use, all children use to start, but here it would be perhaps a little
systematic, methodical.
and yes,
exactly. See, with our children, even we, when we started writing, we have done that,
Yes.
right? But here we have to be very careful that first you give too many dots so that the child has no problem joining the dots, and the second you reduce the number of dots, and the third, like. But it has to be in supervision. We just can't leave them alone.
And I think it also goes back to what you were saying, errorless
Yeah. Yes.
discrimination. Is that
Yes.
the word?
Yes.
Errorless
Yes.
discrimination.
Discrimination. Yes.
So you ensure that the child does not
Make an
a
error.
make an error,
Exactly.
or fail in the
Exactly.
task of joining the 2 dots by giving them adequate
Clues.
clues. Yes.
Exactly. Now, if the child is unable to do this, we could provide further clues. You see, draw the lines within a template.
Okay.
The child will another support, another clue, another physical assistance, and we remove the template when we start.
The
Yeah,
child's skills.
it depends upon the ability. If the child is unable to do this, we'll go a previous further down. A step. Yeah. So like that. So this is basically used for writing skills. Yep. And writing his name, writing his any functional skill which you want the child to learn can be taught through fading visual clues. Yeah. Stuti would have an example, I suppose.
Yes,
I would request
do have
Stuti.
an example.
Okay. Yes, writing a name is a very functional skill. Everybody should know. What do you say, Stuti?
Obviously, ma'am,
Yeah.
everyone should know. At least we expect our child that he should at least know how to write his own name.
Right.
So, if you look at this chart, मान लीजिए किसी बच्चे का नाम कमल है and I want him, मान लीजिए किसी बच्चे का नाम कमल है and I want him to write his own name. So what I'll do, at the first step, I'll provide him a worksheet, suppose like this, on which M and L has been written appropriately. But at the place where K has written, if you look at it thoroughly, I've provided these dots itself, so that it just becomes easy for the child to join these dots, और K जो है वो automatically अपनी shape में आ जाता है. At the next step, what I did was
तो स्तुति मर लो को क्या होगा? उसमें बच्चे को कुछ नहीं करना,
No.
कि उसको ट्रेस करना है.
बच्चे को उसको ट्रेस करना
Okay,
है.
okay.
That is so because what we'll do is we'll take only one activity at a
Okay, तो
time.
मतलब एक ही स्टेप करना
Yes,
है. उसको
ma'am.
कई वेरी गुड.
Exactly, so that he just not get confused कि मुझे at a time ये तीनों को trace करना है या फिर
Okay,
इन तीनों
okay.
को write करना है.
So you go from one letter at a time.
Yes,
to
one
the
letter
other.
at a time. All right. So at this step, he'll only only join these dots and will only trace M and L. Then at the next stage, what I'll do is ask him to trace M and L as he did in the earlier stage. But at this, what I did is मैंने जो dots हैं उनका जो number है, number of dots, वो मैंने थोड़ा सा कम कर दिया है. Exactly. ताकि उसको जो prompt है वो मिले, but थोड़ा सा कम मिले.
थोड़ा सा fade कर
थोड़ा
देना.
सा फेड बाय द टाइम मैं करती चली जाती हूँ. देन एट द नेक्स्ट स्टेप व्हाट आई डिड इज मैंने क जो है वो कम्प्लीटली रिमूव कर दिया है. आई आस्क हिम टू राइट क ऑन हिज ओन. म को इफ यू ऑब्जर्व इट थॉरली, मैंने म को भी डॉटेड कर दिया है, सो दैट जब उसका क कंप्लीट हो गया ही कुड मूव ऑन फर्दर टू म. एंड आई आस्क हिम टू ट्रेस ल एज इट हैज बीन रिटन ओवर हियर. At the next stage, what I did is ask him to write K himself. म के जो मैंने dots हैं वो कम कर दिए हैं and that too partially मैंने कम किया है. I'll ask him कि वो म को partially dot के through complete करे और जो partially है वो उसको सिर्फ trace करे. Then L also he'll trace it over this. At the next step, क has been removed, क has been completely removed, म की जगह पे सिर्फ 2 डॉट्स छोड़ दिए हैं, just for a little bit prompting या cluing आप जैसे कह सकते हैं, और ल has been converted to this dot, ताकि जब बच्चा क सीख जाए, म सीख जाए, तो साइमल्टेनियसली ल भी वो ग्रेजुअली सीखता चला जाए. At the next step, क has been removed, he'll write it on his own. Then ma has also been removed so that he could write it on his own. And then ल का मैंने सिर्फ ये डंडा रहने दिया है ताकि वो उसको ट्रेस करे और बाकी जो पार्शियल ल या नहीं ड्रॉ है वो उसको अपने आप लिख सके. And then finally at the last stage what I did is provided him just a simple line like this, and he'll write himself ka ma la. So the final step comes out here.
When he writes all the 3 letters
Yes,
independently.
independently and himself.
इसको बहुत अच्छा बताया आपने, पर एक बात मैं बताना चाह रही थी, इसके स्टेप्स बढ़ भी सकते थे और
Obviously,
कम भी हो सकते
कम भी
थे.
हो सकते, depending upon the ability of the child itself.
ठीक है. और एक बात मुझे और यहाँ पे ध्यान आ रही है जो कि मैं आपके साथ शेयर करना चाहूंगी. हमने अभी तो कहा था कि टीच चिल्ड्रन इन स्टेप्स, राइट? तो अक्सर लोग कहते हैं कि जब कमल सिखाना है तो पहले हम पहले क सिखा देते हैं, है ना, फिर म सिखाएंगे, पर फिर ल सिखाएंगे. तो इस तरह से लोग अक्सर टीचर्स मैंने देखा ऐसे सिखाते हैं. पर अगर आप सिर्फ क अलग से सिखाएंगे तो क्या होगा? तो आप उसको क लिखना सिखा रहे हो, ना कि कमल. आप समझ रहे हो मेरी बात? तो बच्चे अगर क सिर्फ अलग से सिखा रहे हो लिखना, तो बच्चे को ये नहीं पता चलेगा कि वो क कमल का क लिख रहा है कि ककड़ी का लिख रहा है कि कौवा का लिख रहा है कि किसका क है. तो ये एक और प्रिंसिपल सामने आया है आपके कि ऑलवेज स्टार्ट टीच फ्रॉम होल टू पार्ट्स. तो बच्चे को पहले पूरी होल चीज उसके सामने होनी चाहिए, उसका पूरा नाम उसके पास है, पर कर वो स्टेप में रहा है. तो होल टू पार्ट्स इज अनदर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट प्रिंसिपल विच टीचर्स हैव टू कीप इन माइंड, कि ये नहीं कि आपने स्टेप्स में, क्योंकि आप जनरली कहते हैं कि ब्रेक द टास्क इनटू स्टेप्स, तो स्टेप्स में सिखाओ, पर उसमें कंफ्यूजन भी हो सकता है. तो पूरा नाम पहले है, पर आगे आगे पूरा नाम है बच्चे के सामने, पर एक एक स्टेप्स आगे कर रहा है. तो होल टू पार्ट्स इज अ वेरी गुड प्रिंसिपल, यू हैव टू कीप इन माइंड. जैसे कि अब आप पार्ट्स ऑफ द बॉडी सिखाना चाहते हैं, तो उसमें भी आप सारी बॉडी एक ही बारी में तो सिखाएंगे नहीं, स्टेप्स लेंगे, पर पूरी बॉडी पहले दिखाना बहुत जरूरी है. एंड मेरी बॉडी की आंखें, मेरी बॉडी का नाक, मेरी बॉडी के कान, तो उससे बच्चा रिलेट करेगा. अगर मैं अलग से सिखाऊंगी तो आंखें मेरी मतलब इंसान की के जानवर की,
तो एक कॉन्टेक्स्ट आ जाता है ऐसे करने से.
दैट्स ट्रू, क्योंकि हमारे बच्चे कनेक्ट नहीं कर सकते. एब्स्ट्रैक्शन इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर देम. तो हमको जितना कॉन्क्रीट कर पाए, और इसके बाद हम और क्या कह सकते हैं, मान लीजिए बच्चे को और आपने इसको कॉन्क्रीट बनाना है. कमल तुम्हारा नाम है, और जैसे स्तुति ने पढ़ने के लिए बताया था, अपना नाम की
फोटोग्राफ लगा
कि तेरा नाम ये लिखा जा रहा है, सो बेसिकली द बॉटम लाइन इज make the task simple, analyze it to any extent, to make it so simple for the child, keeping in visibility कि सिवियरिटी एबिलिटी वाला बच्चा भी, सिवियर से सिवियर एबिलिटी वाला बच्चा भी सीख सके, आप इम्प्रूवमेंट ला सकते हैं. तो इसलिए कई बार जब लोग कहते हैं ना कि कुछ नहीं कर सकता, ये सिवियर है, बहुत कुछ नहीं कर सकता, बट मैं कहती हूं कि अगर आपकी स्ट्रैटेजीज आपने ठीक से यूज करती हैं तो देयर इज डेफिनेटली अ स्कोप फॉर इम्प्रूवमेंट. यस, दिस चाइल्ड मे नॉट कम टू दैट लेवल, बट ही मे कम फ्रॉम हियर टू दिस लेवल. या और जब आप टास्क एनालिसिस करते हैं तो यू कैन मेजर इट ऑल्सो. तो वो हम आईपी में करेंगे जब अगली हमारी टेली कॉन्फ्रेंस है, कि हम कैसे मेजर करते हैं बच्चे की प्रोग्रेस.
I think in fact this particular point that you have made is really important for us. जो आप कह रही थी that the perception, the common perception that because there is mental retardation or because there is cognitive impairment, a person cannot do.
Yeah.
The assumption is that there is disability and that is also inability.
Exactly.
But the point you are making is that by using techniques and strategies like this of task analysis and so on, and breaking it up into simple steps, we can actually make a difference in
by
developing
optimizing
the
his
ability
abilities,
or optimizing the potential
Yes.
of any child, no
Yes.
matter how severe the
Exactly.
disability is.
तो कहने का मतलब डिसेबिलिटी में से आप एबिलिटी ढूंढो, राइट. और
जी.
जितनी भी एबिलिटी है
जी.
उसको आप उसको मैक्सिमाइज करो, उसका जो, और वो कैसे होगा इन स्ट्रैटेजीज के.
So I think this is one of the another very important teaching principle that you have to be very positive and optimistic. I think.
Exactly.
Never,
You said it. You said
you
it.
just
Yes.
always feel that child has got the ability and I have to maximize and I have to just maximize it no matter in what way. So that is one of the very important teaching principle again, that the teacher and the parents and the other people who are associated with the child must have a positive attitude or an optimistic attitude towards the child.
बिल्कुल. और क्या अभी आपको लगता है ये सब देख के कि इन बच्चों को पढ़ाना आसान है? क्योंकि अक्सर हमें लोग कहते हैं मंदबुद्धि बच्चों को पढ़ाना है, अरे तो क्या बड़ा आसान है. हाँ, अगर आपको नहीं पढ़ाना तो बहुत आसान है कि आप बच्चों को कुछ भी दे दो, दिल भी बिजी, और जब स्कूल की छुट्टी हो जाए तो घर चले जाओ. पर अगर आपको सच में बच्चे का व्यवहार, जो स्किल बिहेवियर, इफ यू वांट टू इंक्रीज दोस, यू हैव टू टीच देम सिस्टमैटिकली द वे वी हैव जस्ट डेमोन्स्ट्रेटेड. एंड आई मीन इट्स I wouldn't say difficult, but it needs planning.
Yes.
It needs thought.
Yeah, आप जो कह रहे थे आसान है, आई थिंक आसान अभी आपने करके दिखाया है कि हो सकता है. आई थिंक व्हाट वी नीड टू लुक एट इट इज फ्रॉम दैट पॉइंट. आसान हो सकता है,
बिल्कुल हो
अगर
सकता है.
हम स्ट्रक्चर्ड वे में और प्लान करके, और
अगर हमको ज्ञान हो,
जी, ज्ञान,
अगर हमको इन
हाँ,
सब चीजों का ज्ञान हो
जी,
जाए,
जी.
तो आज हमने इसीलिए थोड़ा बहुत डिटेल में जाके डेमोन्स्ट्रेट करा कि सबको ज्ञान हो जाए. थ्योरी में पढ़ के समझना बड़ा आसान है, पर जब हम बच्चों के साथ करते हैं तो इतना आसान नहीं होता है.
तो ये जो आप जैसे ये आपने स्तुति जी ने बनाया, ये दिस चार्ट फॉर इंस्टेंस एंड द फ्लैश कार्ड्स एंड दीज टेक्निक्स, दीज आर ऑल टीचिंग लर्निंग मटेरियल्स दैट शी हैज डेवलप्ड on the basis of her individual
Child, yes.
Yes,
interactions
ma'am.
with a child. So
Yes.
it is up to us now to develop and use our
Exactly.
creativity based on the knowledge that we have to develop the appropriate materials
Depending upon the
to
ability or
teach
the
the
level
child.
of the child.
Yeah.
So this is a very important point
Yes.
that I think all trainees who are learning in this field of special education out there should particularly
Exactly.
mark as
कि कुछ भी ऐसा नहीं है कि एवरीथिंग इज टेलर मेड.
जी.
जैसे अगर मैंने ये नाम, इस बच्चे के लिए इतने स्टेप्स का चार्ट बना है, दूसरे बच्चे के लिए शायद पूरा ही चार्ट भरा हुआ हो,
जी, हो
और एक बच्चे के लिए शायद सिर्फ 3 ही स्टेप्स हो. तो हर बच्चे का अलग अलग है. तो लोग आते हैं तो कई बार बोलते हैं कि हमें टीचिंग लर्निंग मटेरियल चाहिए, खरीदना है. दिस नथिंग लाइक स्टैंडर्डाइज्ड थिंग. यू कांट, बिकॉज ईच चाइल्ड इज डिफरेंट.
Absolutely.
It has to be tailor made. Okay, now we can go on further. That we have talked about the strategies. We have tried our best to teach a child with these strategies, but we face a problem with children with mental retardation, that whatever we teach them is very difficult for them to transfer in another situation. That means they have difficulty in generalization. They have difficulty in transferring the learning in other situations. So that also is very, very important technique. Important thing which we have to keep in mind as a teacher, that we need to generalize their skills. Now, as you can see on the screen, that what is generalization? Generalization is a process by which a behavior learnt in one situation is transferred to be performed in another similar situation is called generalization. Right? So what I mean to say is that, say for example, we just talked about whatever, if I taught threading the bead with this needle in the classroom, children will get used to this needle. If I taught children, numbers or Mohan on this flashcard, they can only read Mohan on this flashcard. If it is written outside on a piece of sheet and he has to find out where his name is, he may not do it. Or if he went to a bank and he has to find when his name is coming, when his turn is coming, he can't read his name. So those are the problems we face with our children. So in order to kind of not to have that problem, we need to generalize the behavior. So whatever we teach, we try to generalize. In other words, we help the child perform the same behavior in other situations with different material. Yeah. Now, before I go on to that, there's another teaching principle which we keep in mind. That is, we always first teach with the concrete things. Say for example, Stuti has just told you about colors. Now, but colors could have been taught first with the concrete things. Say for example, red, balls,
Red shorts,
red balls, red,
tomato or something like
yes, and then
An
apple or red balls, red ribbons, red bindis, red pencils, anything concrete which is actually in red color, and then take the concrete things, then go on to the abstract things like cards and all. But we do go from concrete to abstract and then to various situations. So generalization is very, very important. So basically, in order that the child learns generalization, we try to teach the skill in a natural setting. Say for example, if I want to teach the child brushing, so we will teach while the child has to do that brushing skill. That means in the morning. If we want the child to wash his hands, so we will do it after he has finished eating something. If we want him to learn dressing, so not that that now, okay, I've taken a goal on dressing, okay, let's do dressing. No. So I always try to teach whenever there is a appropriate time for it, and whenever the setting also, in the house, in the bathroom, like that. Okay. So that's what we do, and all the specific behaviors which we teach in the classroom have to be taught in another situation. Say for example, if I have taught number in the classroom, next I'll just go out, maybe in the natural surroundings, and I will strengthen that behavior. Go get 5 leaves for me, go
pick up 5 small toys,
or
blocks lying in the
pebbles,
classroom.
beads, whatever. Then go home. Okay, then you can say, okay, this is a calendar, and now you color 5 wherever 5 is written. So the child is having different activities, but he's strengthening the same behavior which we have taught in the classroom. And time, आपने घड़ी से सिखाया जो आपके पास बनी हुई थी manual घड़ी, and the child is unable to read in his own watch. So maybe bring that also in the classroom, or take him wherever other watches are there, a wristwatch, a clock, wall clock, or digital. So we have to performing the same skill with different material.
You suggest that we simulate the setting if need be, or we take the child into a
Very
setting.
good.
setting.
As far as possible, take them to the natural setting, but some of the settings are not possible.
Not always
Say for example, I can't do that taking the child to a crossing in the first go, because they're not trained to pass the crossing lights. So I will simulate the same situation in the classroom before they actually go to the natural setting. So have all those red lights, green lights, and all kind of transporters. So we have that kind of simulation where we have cars and the pedestrians and everything and various lights, and then after the child has learned the concept, we go on to the natural setting, the real setting. Yeah.
So what you are saying is that you're suggesting that we go from concrete to abstract first. But then in that situation, say like traffic light, learning how to cross a road when the traffic light is so you show perhaps a concrete situation and then teach in a simulated setting and then take back. How do you go back and forth from one to the other? That's what I was asking.
Very right. See, there are certain skills which we called survival skills, safety skills. We can't take a risk.
Okay.
Right? See, with money and all, if I want to teach money, I can simply take them to the shops, because there is no question of death or there's risk involved in it, But I can't do that with the traffic lights.
Teaching them how to cross a road, for instance.
If there is because 80% mastery, we expect from our children. But in this case, there has to be 100% mastery. So if I take them to the crossing light before ensuring 100% mastery, there could be anything, and I can't afford to take that risk. So we will simulate that in the classroom, and then only take them when we are sure that now they are ready to go to the real situation. We can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what. So sometimes, see, these are all guidelines for us, but we need to follow it up, keeping in view the child. And now, for example, if the child is having an epileptic fit, we have to be more careful.
Okay.
The whole thing, everything will be changed. So next time when we talk about IEP, we have to write all these things in our IEP. So these are the, I would say, guidelines for the teachers, but they need to be tailor-made. They need to be adapted or maybe modified according to your
specific
child.
needs of each child.
Exactly. That is more important. Very, very important. There are no, I would say, prescribed recipes for anything.
Okay.
Yeah. So, anything, would you like to describe your...
Yes, ma'am. I would like to explain
Because
an
this is
example
very
for
important,
journalization.
yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I think I do remember that when I was earlier when I came in this field, that journalization was the most common problem that I faced with my child.
I see.
remember this case of mine, and I was teaching her to identify this yellow color. So what she did was she always identified yellow color, but then that was only in the case of this flashcard. She never identified yellow colors, say on my clothes, on the walls of the room, and so on. So whenever I changed my stimulus, she was unable to identify the yellow color.
पर एक बार जरा हिंदी में भी बता दो अपने व्यूअर्स के लिए कि जनरलाइजेशन का मतलब क्या है.
डेफिनेटली जर्नलाइजेशन एक वो आप प्रोसेस कह सकते हो जहाँ पे हम स्टिमुलस को चेंज कर देते हैं, या फिर बच्चे को डिफरेंट डिफरेंट सिचुएशंस बच्चे को हम प्रोवाइड करते हैं, ताकि बच्चे ने जो लर्न स्किल है वो अलग अलग जगह पे जर्नलाइज कर सके. मान लीजिए मैंने बच्चे को ग्रीन कलर की पहचान करवाई, तो मेरा जो पहला स्टेप हो जाएगा दैट वुड बी टू मेक हिम आइडेंटिफाई ग्रीन कलर से ऑन दीज फ्लैश कार्ड्स. नेक्स्टली एक बार जब बच्चे ने ग्रीन कलर आइडेंटिफाई करना सीख लिया इन फ्लैश कार्ड्स पे, तो मैं बच्चे को नेचुरल सेटिंग्स में ले जा सकती हूँ. मान लीजिए मैं किसी पार्क में ले गई, मैं किसी प्ले ग्राउंड में ले गई, या क्लासरूम सेटअप से बाहर ले गई. सो नाउ व्हाट आई विल आस्क माई चाइल्ड इज टू कि बच्चा जो है वो ग्रीन कलर पहचाने, पर डिफरेंट स्टिमुलस पर. मान लीजिए मैंने कोई कपड़े पहन लिए जिसपे ग्रीन कलर हो, कोई थर्ड पर्सन है जिसने ग्रीन कलर का बैग कैरी किया हुआ है, या हमारे प्लांट्स हैं, पेड़ पत्ते हैं, फूल हैं, कुछ भी ग्रीन कलर का. सो बट आई थिंक जर्नलाइजेशन इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट.
घर में भी जाके करना पड़ेगा शायद.
डेफिनेटली.
ये नहीं कि सिर्फ स्कूल में ही करा.
डेफिनेटली.
हर एक साधारण सिचुएशन में बच्चे को वो कलर या जो भी आप सिखा रही हैं वो उस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में उसे पहचाने, उसे समझे और उसको आइडेंटिफाई कर सके.
यस.
एंड फॉर दिस आई थिंक हम स्पेशल एजुकेटर्स की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बनती है कि हम पेरेंट्स को अवेयर रखें कि हमने आज क्लास में ये करवाया, तो आप बच्चे को घर पे जाके उतना ही ये काम करवाइए.
उसी लेसन को आप थोड़ा
कंटिन्यू रखिए,
रीइंफोर्स करिए, ताकि वो और स्ट्रांगली वो सेट हो जाए मन में बच्चे का कि क्या सीखा आज, वो कॉन्टेक्स्ट क्या है.
अभी मुझे बात करते एक बड़ा अच्छा याद आ रहा है. रिमेम्बर जनरलाइजेशन के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में हमने वो सिखाते हैं ना ग्रीटिंग, तो एक बच्चा इस फैमिली से आता था, उसको हमने हेलो सिखा दिया, हेलो करना, यू नो, शेक हैंड. अब जी वो तो शेक हैंड सबके साथ ही करने लग गया. उसको यही नहीं पता चले कि किसी कभी भाई देखना पड़ता है किसके साथ करना है, किसी के साथ नहीं करना. तो कई हमें ये भी बड़ा ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा. अब ग्रीटिंग के तरीके क्या है, शेक हैंड भी है, नमस्ते भी है, हग भी है. अब आप हग सिखा दोगे, बच्चा बड़ा हो गया और लड़कियों को हग करने लग गया, तो मुसीबत होगी. माँ आ गई माँ पास, आपने क्या सिखा दिया. तो ये भी हमें ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा जब हम जनरलाइज कर रहे हैं कि बच्चे का एनवायरनमेंट और क्या हमारी समाज में क्या एक्सेप्टेड है, क्या नहीं है, वो बड़ा जरूरी है. राइट, वो भी बहुत जरूरी है करने के लिए.
We just take a short break and we'll be back and we'll continue this discussion with you. आप प्लीज देखते रहिएगा, हम थोड़ी ही देर में वापस आ रहे हैं with more important discussion on this topic of task analysis.